Rita, a little girl with the ability to see the future, begins to run away from her teacher. When the teacher asks her to return, Rita doesn't listen. Two of her friends, Jonah and Michelle, run after her to bring her back. When Rita arrives at a dead end, she finally stops. Michelle, worried, asks Rita why she ran away all of a sudden, then Jonah suggests they return immediately before their teacher gets upset with them. Without saying a word, Rita suddenly grabs Michelle and Jonah and together they see a vision of a great destruction befalling the earth. Michelle pulls away from Rita, afraid, and asks Jonah if he also saw the vision. Unfazed, Jonah asks Rita if the vision can be stopped. Rita tells him no, that scary things are about to happen. Resigned, Jonah holds her hand for support. After growing up, Jonah dreams of Rita's childhood vision about the destruction befalling Earth. He wakes up screaming her name. In the UC-0096, Vice Admiral Nori and Michelle, who's also grown up, have a secret conversation about some documents he showed to her. Uncomfortable, he tells her he will be heavily punished if their secret is discovered. Calmly, Michelle promises to keep their secret safe and talks to him about divination, claiming she has the ability to see into the future and possesses hidden knowledge. Subsequently, Vice Admiral Nori's assistant asks him if it's wise to trust Michelle, considering she's no longer recognized as the daughter of the chairman, Luyo Wumi, further adding that another daughter to the chairman, President Stefan Luyo, is planning to oust her. Vice Admiral Nori says Michelle's divination has been coming true, as he goes on to narrate how during the post-war upheavals, Chairman Luyo and CO. never for once misread the political situation, smartly allying themselves with the AEUG during the GRYPS conflict, and then during Char's rebellion, they were the first to pull out of Laplace. He believes Chairman Luyo had been taking consultations from Michelle and seeking her approval on every decision he made. Nori's assistant is shocked, realizing Michelle was only a child at the time. Vice Admiral Nori tells his assistant that Michelle was at the time referred to as a miracle child. Rita's assistant tells her about the RX-0 Unicorn Gundam, a mobile suit made of psychoframe, an alloy that responds to human will, however, now referred to as Singularity 1. Michelle believes it's a technology that will transform human society. Her assistant, though, doesn't believe the mobile suit should be referred to as technology, as the true nature of the pulse-like effect and the mechanism by which it was generated is still unclear. He adds that every last Federation suit that was hit by Psychoframe has been disassembled like they were never built in the first place. Furthermore, the Gundam that was hunted by the Federation and Zeon when it was considered to be the key to Laplace's box began to exhibit unknown powers over the course of the conflict, eventually becoming something that was beyond human comprehension. Rita's assistant says he isn't sure if this change was caused by the Psychoframe reacting to its pilot's new type abilities. As a result, he believes an uncontrolled weapon can't be considered technology, adding that Singularity 1, which was in the possession of the Mineva faction, and the Federation's Unit 2 were both dismantled in the presence of inspectors and sealed away. Rita's assistant is convinced that when confronted by this godlike power it had unexpectedly gained, humanity could only rebound from it. Just then, Michelle arrives at a lab where her father, Chairman Luyo, is being kept on ice. She promises to find the Psychoframe to manipulate time itself and return him to life. While transporting Martha Vist Carbine, a lady believed to have information on the Vist Foundation's involvement in the Laplace incident, the escort is attacked by Gundams. After the battle, Michelle appears as Victor and demands to know the whereabouts of the White Unicorn and the Black Lion, two powerful Unicorn Gundams, and in return promises to give Martha a new life. Though expunged from all military records, Michelle is convinced that Martha witnessed the incident and can provide their whereabouts. She wishes to know everything without any objections. In outer space, RX-0 Gundam Unit 3 Phoenix, the last of the Unicorn Gundams, appears and evades attacks from Michelle and other mobile suits, while soaring towards Earth. It evades their attacks easily, much to their frustration. All of a sudden, Jonah's Gundam, Narrative, appears and attacks Phoenix, but it still proves a futile effort. Desperate, Jonah holds down the Phoenix, calling out to Rita, his childhood friend, whom he believes to be controlling the Phoenix. However, the Phoenix manages to get away. The figurehead princess of Zeon, Mineva, warns Minister Monahan about his ambitions to capture the Phoenix. Though powerless to intervene, Mineva wonders how he could use Sleeve's remnants to intervene in a federal operation. Minister Monahan is surprised she found out. However, he warns her it's a highly political issue. He says keeping Magallanica within the Republic of Zeon territory requires constant political effort, and given the increased momentum for space colonist independence after the Laplace Declaration, it can start another war. Back in space, the powerful corporation Luyo and Company assigns Michelle and Jonah, along with the RX-9 Narrative Gundam to assist the Federation, much to the Federation's distrust and displeasure. Commander Iago informs his team that Michelle and Jonah have brought a piece of new experimental equipment with them and they ought to be thankful. However, Banagher argues that Phoenix Hunt, which is targeted at capturing and destroying the Phoenix, is a top-secret mission that answers directly to staff headquarters. Reluctant, Commander Iago affirms that Michelle and Jonah had been sent by the staff headquarters. Just then, Jonah is taken out of the narrative Gundam, injured. The Federation stare at him, suspicious he might be a Cubernotype. Curious, Banagher trails Jonah as he's being led away, but before he gets too far, he's stopped by Michelle's assistant, who reminds him they have the authorization to be given utmost privacy while maintaining their suits. In order not to draw further suspicion, Banagher leaves. After Jonah is helped out of his suit, Michelle smacks him across the face, upset that he intentionally let the Phoenix go. Meanwhile, Banagher taps into the room and listens to their conversation. Michelle asks why Jonah let the Phoenix escape, but he denies it dejectedly. Michelle doesn't believe him. Jonah thinks they could have shut the Phoenix down without eliminating Rita, who he still believes was in it. Angry, Michelle tells him she's trying to eliminate the Phoenix because it's not easily eliminated, adding that its attacks on them could be devastating. She warns him to accept that Rita, who was the true miracle child, is no more, as she now wants the Phoenix for herself at whatever cost. She asks him to rest before they go after the Phoenix again. Years ago, the Titans, a secret group, conducted vicious cyber-new-type experiments on orphans. A woman, Miss Stefan, had come asking for the miracle children, who at the time were Rita, Jonah, and Michelle, who had predicted the colony drop as a result of Rita's vision, thereby saving the lives of many during the war. Miss Stefan says sadly, though, they'd lost their parents and had been admitted into the Titan facility as war orphans. She adds that her father, Chairman Luyo, wishes to take them in. Surprised, the Titan leader wonders why Chairman Luyo is interested in the kids. Calmly, Miss Stefan assures him her father doesn't believe in Zionism. When the Titan leader begins to prove too difficult to convince, Miss Stefan threatens to expose his misconduct to the society and the destruction of property by new types, saying after all the new type labs are under Titan's control, thereby making him responsible for their production, the production of artificially created new types and cybernotypes. She guarantees that she has no interest in the artificially created new types, as her father is seeking for a real new type who can see the future, and she's convinced only one of the miracle children can see the future. She supposes it's inconceivable that 3 children can become new types at the same time. She's come for the real one, whose power was projected onto the other 2. She demands he finds the one before their experiments destroy all 3 children. After another child loses her life during the cyber new type experiments, Michelle warns Jonah that they need to run away if they wish to stay alive, to the support of Rita. In UC-0097, the Republic of Zeon, Lieutenant Ellick informs her team about the malfunction of the Phoenix before its disappearance, and that its whereabouts were unknown, until it reappeared and attacked the Federation again after Princess Miniva issued her Laplace Declaration. Ellick suspects Princess Miniva has been hiding the Phoenix all along, as it's impossible for the Phoenix to move around on its own for years without any support. She considers there could be a mothership or supply base somewhere, but unfortunately, hasn't been discovered by anyone. She declares their mission is to capture the Phoenix. Lieutenant Zoltan interrupts her, informing the team that they have the Psychomonitor, a device that picks up psychowaves emitted by the Phoenix and will detect where precisely it is. Meanwhile, in the Federation mothership, they also discover a psychomonitor that can detect the Phoenix movement anywhere around the Earth sphere. Commander Iago reminds Michelle that psycho-weapons are really dangerous. He says the Phoenix returned as if summoned by Unit 1. Admittedly, Michelle confesses that psycho-frames do attract each other. After departing, Michelle's assistant advises her to stop with her plans, but Michelle refuses, stating things could become terrible if her sister, Miss Stefan, decides to interfere. Even still, Michelle's assistant doubts the possibility of controlling the Phoenix. Undisturbed, Michelle tells him not to worry about it. While the mobile suits train, Banagher recalls his conversation with Jonah, after asking him about his background and how he became a Federation officer who's on loan to Chairman Luyo and co., but Jonah ignored him. Upset, Banagher had held him back against the wall and declared his distrust for their mission, as they'd all been completely quiet about it. He suspects the military is hiding something important from him. Out of patience, Jonah snaps away, and as he leaves promises to catch the Phoenix himself. Suddenly, Banagher is alerted about a psychomonitor and commanded to return to the ship immediately, believing the Phoenix's location has been revealed. Meanwhile, as Michelle's mobile team prepares to leave, their rivals, Ellick and Zoltan also depart, heading to the same location. Ellick warns Zoltan to avoid combating in and around the college colonies, as their search for the Phoenix is meant to be kept a secret. Scoffing at her warnings, Zoltan heads out. When Commander Iago tries to send his team out, Michelle asks him to stop. Arriving at the college colony, Michelle's team finds it empty. Since firing weapons inside the colony is expressly forbidden, the team agrees to lure the Phoenix toward the nearest docking once they capture its location. When an object is reportedly noticed traveling in their direction, Jonah flies in that direction, leaving the others. Getting to the spot, he meets Zoltan. Zoltan, realizing Jonah isn't the Phoenix they came looking for, attacks him anyway. Jonah is shocked, knowing it's forbidden to fight within any colony. Desperate, Alec warns Zoltan to avoid attacking, but stubbornly, he continues, destroying the city below. The Phoenix, sensing the chaos in the college colony, goes in to intervene and attacks Zoltan. Hopeless, Zoltan demands a powerful weapon, the Neo-Zeon. Jonah is plagued with guilt about the passing of Rita. While he pleads for her forgiveness, his Gundam suit begins to function without him, aiming to capture the Phoenix. Desperate to stop the attack, Jonah pulls the buttons but nothing functions. He gets trapped in his suit. Realizing Michelle used him to lure out the Phoenix, Jonah is shaken. All of a sudden, Zoltan's powerful weapon, Neo-Zeon, emerges. However, rather than merge with Zoltan, it begins to merge with Jonah's Gundam instead. While merging, Jonah recalls his childhood with Rita and Michelle, how they'd stowed away on a plane and arrived at a base in Australia. Feeling adventurous, they decided to join a school trip, and had, thereon, witnessed the destruction that befell Earth. Afterward, they'd been caught trying to steal food and sent to the Titan. After escaping from the Titan, Jonah, Rita, and Michelle get caught and sent back. Desperate to keep them locked up, the Titan leader threatens to cut off their feet. In support, a doctor supports his decision, claiming all three have the same ability to see the future. However, the Titan leader becomes skeptical, determined to identify the real one among them so he can have an advantage in the war. When Michelle hears his threats to spare only the real new type among them, she tricks Jonah into testifying against Rita, convincing him to believe that Rita was going to be adopted and receive royal treatment. She adds that the Titans will lose the war and the lab will get shut down. Afterward, Rita can come to rescue them. After their confession, Rita makes a new agreement with Titan, to pretend to Chairman Luyo that she's the real new type, thereby getting adopted and having Rita get sent to a new facility. Michelle confesses looking for Jonah and Rita, and though he made some alterations to his appearance, she still tracked him into the military. She adds that even after the war, the fighting continued and the research into new types continued, it therefore was expected that the combination of the researches be assigned to her, a cybernotype. She admits that Rita had already passed away by the time she found her. Angry, Jonah powers Neo-Zeon, threatening to destroy the city, but the Phoenix gets in his way and stops him. After restoring the peace, the Phoenix flashes off. Michelle explains to the Federation that the psychoframe the unicorns are made from is a system that mirrors human will in their control systems, yet was also made to function as a vessel that stores the human will, as evidence that humans can exist even without physical bodies and be a proof of eternal life, and that when people pass away, they become a form of energy that will be converted into physical force. Therefore, Nudios are people who can use the unknown energy emitted from the souls of those deceased people and harness it to affect physical reality. She believes if the reaction between the Gundam suits and a pilot with new type ability goes on long enough, the psychoframe emits a field that draws those souls in and becomes a medium that can draw out the ability to manipulate time itself. She's convinced there's a weapon that can bring an end to their colony, and as a result, the Phoenix was sent from another world to eliminate this threat, the Singularity. The Federation is skeptical, knowing Unicorn Unit 1 was dismantled. Just then, Jonah informs them that another powerful threat still exists. Minister Monahan confesses his disappointment at Zoltan's destruction of the college colony. Alec apologizes that she had no control over the Neo-Zeon. Minister Monahan condemns Zoltan as a reject from the Char reincarnation project who failed to become full frontal. Alec reports that Neo-Zeon's core technology was black-boxed and therefore with incomplete analysis, making it difficult to control. Having had enough, Minister Monahan commands that it be shut down. He says he wishes to keep the Republic of Zeon's name out of the mess. Meanwhile, Michelle professes that the Psychomonitor is a lie, as they plan to draw out the Phoenix by forcing the Sleeves and Jonah's Gundam narrative to battle. When Commander Iago angrily challenges Michelle, Michelle's assistant intervenes. He says if they can capture the Phoenix, humanity will be able to conquer eternal sleep, as they can study for ways to transplant the human soul into a psychoframe, thereby making humans immortal. Uncomfortable, the Federation refuses. Alec receives instructions to leave the ship before it gets destroyed, with the Zeon intending to erase all damages perpetuated by Zoltan on the college colony. They intend to tag him as a Sleeves remnant, supported by Zeon sympathizers. Zoltan, who has been eavesdropping on the conversation, appears, startling Alec. Afraid and panicking, Alec takes a gun and shoots, but Zoltan makes it alive. He merges with the Neo-Zeon, ready for the attack that is to be followed. Michelle's assistant tells Jonah that in order to capture the Phoenix, he's the perfect bait, as he shares a lot of emotions with Rita. As Michelle's assistant begins to talk about the merging of souls with the Gundam suits, an alarm goes off. A foreign Gundam is being reported someplace nearby, which is Zoltan, blasting at the Federation from a distance. When the Federation notice it's Zoltan, they wonder how he spotted their presence. Rampaging, Zoltan destroys the Federation's mobile suits. Desperate to salvage the situation, the Federation attack the Sleeves mothership. Incensed, a deranged Zoltan goes on a destruction spree. While watching the wreckage, Jonah hears the voice of Rita, trying to reach out to him. As he hurries out, he meets Michelle, who demands to know what he's up to, as she can also hear the sound of Rita's voice. Solemn, Jonah assures Michelle that Rita is no more, however, her consciousness is still within the Phoenix. He doesn't believe immortality is possible and suggests they give up on it. Michelle finally accepts. When Jonah leaves, Michelle asks her assistant to drop the narrative container. He looks reluctant, wondering if it's the right decision, but Michelle stays determined. As soon as the container gets dropped, Jonah bursts out of it, ready for battle, and attacks the Neo-Zeon. Noticing the severe damage made to the Neo-Zeon, Zoltan deploys desperate measures to get in control, firing the helium-3 to critical power and launching it off to total destruction. Michelle recalls making a confession to Miss Stefan, that she's been pretending about being a new type so that Chairman Loyo, her adopted father, wouldn't send her out. She says all her fortune-telling was a matter of statistics and eavesdropping on political gossip and in the financial world. Quickly, Miss Stefan cuts her off, saying it doesn't matter, as she's always known Michelle's desire to preserve the human soul in a Gundam suit was a silly idea and a foolish dream. She promises to have her remain as her sister after Chairman Loyo passes on. Michelle's assistant tells her although they were responsible for luring out the Phoenix by manipulating the Zeon unit, he believes men like Minister Monahan are responsible for such scenarios. He tells her not to feel so bad. Quickly switching the conversation, Michelle says the more psycho frame the Neo-Zeon has, the higher the edge the narrative Gundam will have. She tells him he doesn't have to come along with her to the battle, but he's determined to stay. Frustrated, the Federation asks Commander Iago why he let Michelle and her assistant leave with the only usable fully fueled boosters they had left. The tired Commander Iago tells him he had no choice, since the order came from their headquarters. Just then, Banagher, panicking, wonders if the simulation results are accurate. Commander Iago doesn't know what was responsible for making helium-3 reach a critical boiling point, however, he knows that if all the tanks stored at the base also become critical and explode, the heat and shockwave from them will engulf the nearby colonies, and the pulverized debris will leave its orbit and fall to the Earth, and were that to happen, the small pieces will burn up in the atmosphere. However, if the wreckage from 3 colonies rains down on the Earth, the disaster will be insurmountable. Realizing the imminent danger, Banagher hurries to render support. Zoltan attacks the Phoenix. As he finally gets a hook around it, Jonah swoops in and breaks the Phoenix loose. Together they join forces and attack the Neo-Zeon, hurling it back. Crazed, Zoltan fires a devastating attack, but the Phoenix shields Jonah from it. Absorbing most of the damage, the Phoenix becomes weak. When Zoltan attempts to absorb its power, declaring his intentions to blow up all the tanks for the destruction of the colonies, Michelle comes charging in, offering to give up her life for the Phoenix and merge her soul with it. Meanwhile, Jonah, who's unconscious as a result of the blast, remembers Michelle offering him back his broken necklace and asking him not to cry. Tearful, Jonah says it belongs to his father. As he sweeps it off, Rita takes it kindly and asks if she can have it. Finally, Jonah comes awake. Zoltan, angrier, attacks Michelle's ship, saying no one understands him, and that people will never change. He says people like him are tortured in the name of creating a miracle, and as a result, he must destroy the world. As he begins to wreak new havoc, the Shazar team of the Federation attack the Neo-Zeon, with Commander Iago vowing to destroy the tanks, rather than let Zoltan destroy the world with them. As Commander Iago tries to free the Phoenix, Zoltan holds him down, trapped. Despaired, Michelle threatens her assistant with a gun and demands he leaves the ship to go as far away as he can, as he'll be picked up by the Damascus immediately after he turns on his emergency beacon. However, her assistant doesn't flinch, keen on remaining until the very end. Michelle's assistant reminds Jonah about their unfinished conversation from earlier. He says Michelle wants to prove to him that if a soul really exits and if it can be transplanted into a psycho frame, then eternal sleep isn't the end, and it's possible to see Rita again. He says she believes if she can make that happen, perhaps she'll be forgiven, as she's had to live with the guilt of betraying her friends. Having heard enough, Michelle stops her assistant and urges Jonah on. As Zoltan launches a powerful attack on Jonah, Michelle's ship sweeps in, just in time, and takes the impact, getting destroyed in the process. Jonah watches the explosion, shocked and horrified, like he's having a very bad dream. In the process, particles of the vanquished ship begin to form a barrier for Jonah. Distorted and downcast, Jonah hangs his head, wondering why Rita and Michelle had to suffer so much. He thinks it would have been better if they'd never been born. Just then, he recalls the rest of his memory, how Rita had helped him fix his broken necklace and offered it back. Finally motivated, Jonah charges at Zoltan with a keen focus. He evades all the attacks. After making it through, he merges with the Phoenix and transcends into ferocious power. Jonah attacks the Neo-Zeon and causes it terrible damage. With the Neo-Zeon permanently destroyed, Zoltan attacks the Phoenix in his Gundam suit, but gets repelled and slain to bits. After the battle, Jonah finds Rita and Michelle in a spirit world. Rita apologizes for getting them involved in the battle to save Earth, as she couldn't get it done all by herself. Michelle admits that the world belongs to the living and should be kept so. Jonah is released from the Phoenix and rescued by Banagher, right before the Phoenix swooshes away. Minister Monahan tells Princess Minerva that reports saying the reaction vanished before the tanks could go critical. He thinks it was likely to be accidentally triggered when a battle broke out against the Federation fleet and Sleeve's remnants. When Minerva asks about the Neo-Zeon, Minister Monahan stutters. She tells him he was lucky, that if all the tanks had gone critical and exploded, very bad things would have happened. Unable to deny any more of it, Minister Monahan asks that they wait for the official report. Banagher tells Jonah that help is coming. Abruptly, Jonah says he has nowhere to go, seeing those he loves have all passed on. Cheering him up, Banagher says it's not all over.